Welcome to this webinar. The title is Karma, the Cycle of Life and Death. My name is Dada Rainjitananda. So we will start with a review from last webinar. We introduced the concept of samskara. This is a Sanskrit word, samskara. What does it mean? It means that when we do an action, the mind gets distorted. Let's say that the original state of mind is, as you can see in the figure, from point E to G. When we perform an action, we modify the mind. Now it is from point E to F. And the mind wants to go back to its original state. So it wants to do that movement from F to G so that it gets back to its original state in G. But before it happens, when it has not yet happened, that reaction is in potential form. So we call it a samskara. So this is a review from the previous question. From the previous webinar. What is samskara? It's a reaction in potential form. So it did not yet happen. It's supposed to happen, but has not yet happened. Continuing out our review, how these samskaras work. Well, when we do an action, an original action, we will cause certain pain or certain pleasure. So that mental measurement of that pain or pleasure gets accumulated as a samskara, waiting for the moment that is ripe, waiting for the opportune moment to happen. So that reaction in potential form is the samskara. All right, so we also saw or talked about the human life, that human life is when mind maintains a parallelism with the body. And I mentioned that human life lasts about 100 years, plus or minus, sometimes more, which accounts for 36,500 days or 876,000 hours. And in that period, we do actions. So we are all the time acting. But this time I will add that human existence, or you can even say human life, in fact, starts from the first time that we get a human body, that our mind gets a human body, and then it proceeds towards the end of human existence is when we attain liberation or salvation. And that can be done with one body or can be done with many bodies. Maybe with one body we didn't finish, and so we may need more than one body. All right. During all that period, we are continuously performing actions. Acting every moment. Even doing nothing is an action. Even if you ignore something, that's also an action. If you just sit there and breathe, breathing is an action. Your thoughts, you are acting. So there is no way to remain without doing something. And these actions are of two types. The first type, it's an original action. In Sanskrit, we say pratyam mulaka karma. you are deciding something and you do it, you did an original action. The other type is when it's a reaction. Means you already did the original action. Now a reaction will happen, and that we'll call samskara. Means we already saw the review. We already understand the term samskara. Samskara mulaka karma. That's the reaction. So two types of action: original action and reaction. The original action is performed by the direct will. And after the direct will worked and performed the original action, the reaction will come, and that is done by indirect will. Means it's not anymore our direct will working, the reaction is happening as a consequence of the action that we have done. And just as a reminder, the samskara is the reaction in potential form. It means that that second type of action does not happen immediately after the original action. It remains in potential form, and then one day it expresses, it happens. So now let's keep in mind this concept, samskara, a reaction in potential form. Another concept, there is the bundle of samskaras, means all the samskaras together, and that is called karma shaya, bundle of samskaras, all samskaras together. That's a second concept I'm keeping here. So we have the concept of samskara, we have the concept of bundle of samskaras. A third concept here, desire, or vasana in Sanskrit. And the desire is behind every action. When we are going to do an action, we do it because of desire. That is, we have the will to do the action, but we do the action according to the desire. Okay, that's another concept. And another one, the pot of desires, or we call it the vasana bhanda. Now, let's try to understand all these concepts, how they work together. So we have samskara, we have the bundle of samskaras, we have desire, and we have the pot of desires. Now, looking at this picture, let's say that the pot of desires is like this container. Okay? Now, what gives the shape to the pot? The shape of the pot is given by the bundle of samskaras. So all the samskaras together, the sum of all the samskaras, give the shape of the pot. And inside the pot, there is the water, and the water is the original action. What does it mean? It means that when I am going to take an action, I do it in that way because of the shape of the pot of desires. So the original action takes the shape of the pot. And what gives the shape of the pot? The bundle of samskaras. Let's see if we just summarize it. I have done a lot of actions. So I have accumulated many reactions or samskaras. So all these reactions in potential form, all these samskaras if I put everything together, it gives a certain shape to what is called the pot of desires. And then when I'm going to take an action, I will do it according to the shape of the pot of desires. So we can say that if we change the shape of that pot, it means changing the adding more samskaras to the bundle or removing samskaras from the bundle, you change the shape of the pot, and then you change the original action. As an example, I am going to buy a shirt, and I look at different colors. There is a blue, red, yellow, white, and I decide I'm going to buy blue because I like blue. Now, why do you like blue? Because according to the bundle of samskaras, blue, the vibration of blue, matches the wave in your mind. Therefore, you get attracted to it. And when you look at it, you feel good because the internal vibration and the external vibration match. Therefore, you choose, okay, I buy blue. And but we might have noticed that taste also changes according to time. Maybe some color you liked when you were young, maybe nowadays you don't like it anymore because probably the bundle of samskaras changed. Either samskaras were removed or samskaras were added, and now this bundle of samskaras is giving a different shape to the pot of desires. So when you are going to act, your action comes out differently. We can see that desire affects the original action. According to the shape of the pot of desires, the original action takes a form. Okay, now let's see how we can effect that. Through ideation. What is ideation? Is to create an idea in the mind. If we utilize a proper ideation, we can fill the pot of desires not with more samskaras, but with the ideation of consciousness. Because here, what we are talking about today is how to get free from that cycle of life and death. Means you accumulate samskaras, and then you exhaust the samskaras, and then the end of life, you still have samskaras to exhaust. So your mind and body separate. Mind remains in a suspended state with the samskaras, the body gets destroyed. Now that mind will look for a new body that will be suitable for the mind to exhaust its samskaras. So that was subject of the first webinar. So now we want to get free from this cycle of samskaras, action and samskara, another action, samskara. How to do it? The moment we are doing the action, we have to apply a certain ideation in forcefully in our mind. We apply an ideation, which I will call here ideation of consciousness or cosmic ideation. That cosmic ideation fills up the pot of desires, and therefore I'm not filling it up with new samskaras. I'm not creating new samskaras because my action here is having the form of consciousness. Even though I may be doing anything, but what is important is the ideation when you are doing it. It's what is in the mind. It's the samskara is the mental measurement. It's not the action itself. So you are doing the action, but in the mind you have a different ideation, a cosmic ideation, and so the action is happening, but the reaction is being transformed into consciousness. So you are not going to, that mental measurement now is consciousness, so you are not accumulating new samskaras. So this proper ideation, what does it do? It fills that pot of desires with consciousness. So it is changing the bundle of samskaras. It is not adding new samskaras to that bundle, but in fact it is adding consciousness, and it's letting the old samskaras go. So it is taking out the samskaras that were there. So the bundle is becoming smaller, and it's flooding it with consciousness. That is the importance of ideation. And ideation is a practice. It's a practice of in the path of yoga. Lots of the practices of yoga are related to creating ideation, creating an idea in the mind, and avoiding other ideas to come to be created. So to be created by the external influences or by influences of the body or external layers of the mind. All right. Um, so if the original action is done with cosmic ideation, it changes the bundle of samskaras. So if the bundle of samskaras is changed, it changes the shape of the pot of desires. So now the pot is in a different shape. Therefore, future original actions that take the shape of the pot will also be changed. And that's why by practicing yoga with cosmic ideation, one is changing one's personality, because changing the bundle of samskaras, changing the shape of the pot of desires, changes the shape of the original actions. So the actions become different. So one becomes different. One's personality becomes different. So proper ideation will change, will create an effect on all future original actions. Our movement in life, from the moment we attain our first human body to the moment we are going to attain the last one, or the moment we are going to move towards uh, liberation, we want to fill up this pot of desires, or we want that all the bundle of samskaras will be just consciousness. And if we can do that, flood our bundle of samskaras with consciousness, then we can attain liberation. And the more we flood it with consciousness, the more we fill it up with consciousness, the more we feel free. so that we'll feel that yes, we are moving towards liberation. We are moving towards being free. Here in the picture, we see the pot of desire. We do our original action with cosmic ideation. That cosmic ideation fills up the pot of desires. It changes the bundle of samskaras, and it will change the shape of the pot in the future. The moment the shape of the pot is different in the future, our future actions will be according to that shape, therefore different. Therefore, we see that the power of cosmic ideation to take us out from this cycle is very important. And is basically the only way to come out from the cycle is through cosmic ideation. How to fill the pot of desires with consciousness? The practice to fill the pot of desires with consciousness called Astanga Yoga, or the 8 steps of yoga. In doing this practice very systematically, one can fill up the pot of desires with consciousness and therefore escape the cycle of action and reaction. And at the same time, as one is filling it up, one is changing one's behavior, one's expression, one's personality. This webinar, I'm not going to go into the practice of Astanga Yoga yet, but I'm going to tell about the different stages on this practice. There are 3 stages in the practice of Astanga Yoga. It's not the 3, here is not the 3 limbs, no, I mean the 8 limbs. You know, Astanga means 8 limbs. So this practice has 8 limbs, or 8, let's say, we can say parts. But here the subject is different. It's the stages that you reach by applying those 8 limbs of yoga, of Astanga Yoga. In the first stage, the effort is to free the mind from the influence of the organs and what we call pranendriya. What it means, the mind many times is not doing things according to conscience. It's doing things according to the way the organs work. You want to see something, touch something, you want to go here, go there, and you are restless. That is the influence of the pranendra and the different organs in the mind. As you practice and get the mind more balanced, more peaceful, more controlled, then you increase the degree of control over the vital energy through the asanas, exercise of yoga, through the pranayama. In the first stage also, you are decreasing the influence of the organs through the practice of yama and niyama. All these practices are helping the mind to get more control At the same time, you are flooding the bundle of samskaras with more and more consciousness. Through all the various practices, that's what's happening. You are getting more control over the mind, more control over the organs, flooding the mind with more and more consciousness, so that the samskaras, the new samskaras in the bundle, are basically consciousness. So the bundle is becoming filled up with consciousness. The effect of in the first stage is that one is getting some purity in the mind and becoming less conscious of the body. It's a stage that the mind is become more pure, more controlled, more balanced, and one is not so identified with the body, so not following only what the body wants, what the different organs want, to see this, to touch this, to experience this, the smell and all this. So mind is becoming pure. One is becoming less conscious of the body. Then it comes to this dawn of the second stage, is when one starts thinking that I am not this body. I am something beyond. That initial awareness that I'm something beyond. So one is thinking this, so one is realizing that I now is going to a mental level, am not this physical body. So what is that I? Now this awareness needs to become more subtle. In the beginning, we may identify with the external layers of the mind, the conscious mind or the subconscious mind. But as we start identifying ourselves with the unconscious mind, means the supramental level of the mind, the subliminal level of the mind, the causal level of the mind, then my understanding of I is changing. In the beginning, the I is identified with the external, what I have done, and I am this, I am that, I'm an engineer, I'm a doctor. So what one has achieved, what one has done. Slowly, slowly, one is identifying that, oh, I'm not that. I'm the one that is capable of doing. So, and then one goes deeper and, oh no, I'm just I am. And in that way, the awareness is becoming more subtle and more subtle. In this second stage, the bundle of samskaras is filling up with consciousness if one is practicing correctly. With the right ideation, one is filling up this bundle with more and more consciousness. So that I is identifying itself with consciousness. And that's the second stage. I is not identifying itself anymore with body, even with the layers of the mind. It's identifying itself with consciousness. And that takes one to the third stage of the practice. The third stage of the practice is one is getting to the final goal, which is the mind gets so expanded that it's reflecting fully the consciousness. So the unit consciousness, which was reflecting on that mind, because the mind expanded to become, let's say, limitless, then it's now that unit consciousness and that cosmic consciousness become one. As long as there are limitations in the mind, the reflection of the cosmic consciousness in the mental plate is limited, and that we call the unit consciousness. But the moment that mental plate can reflect fully the cosmic consciousness, I mean it it just becomes limitless. Then that moment, unit consciousness and cosmic consciousness become one. There is no more difference. So that is done by, means you've already filled up the pot of desires with consciousness, but now there is still that pot there. So you have to offer that pot also to the Supreme Consciousness. And that is a practice called surrender. One surrenders the pot to the Supreme Consciousness, that final surrender. And that's the final goal. And only by doing that, then one can end that cycle of action and reaction. Then there is no more reaction created here. All right. I hope that was not too fast. I'm coming now to a summary. And I will just bring a few points on this summary. The first point is samskara. Samskara is the reaction to an action, but that reaction did not happen yet. It remains in a suspended state, and that suspended state, that reaction in this potential form is called samskara. Let me use okay, so that is the first concept here. Samskara means mind wants to remain in a balanced state, but when we do an action, we distort the mind. The mind wants to go back, and that's the samskara. Okay, so that's the first concept. Many samskaras together, many samskaras together form the bundle of samskaras. That's the other concept, the bundle of samskaras. Now, according to this bundle of samskaras, it gives a certain shape to what we call the pot of desires. So according to that, the bundle makes this in a certain shape, the pot of desires. No? Okay, now let me go back to the original drawings here. The pot of desires, what does it matter for me, this pot of desire? It matters because the original actions that I do are like the water inside the pot, means they take the shape of the pot. And that's what makes me decide to do an action in a certain way or to do an action in a different way, according to the shape of the pot. Okay, so according to the shape, it will influence that action. So the shape of the pot, why does the pot take that particular shape? Because of the bundle of samskaras, because of all those samskaras accumulated. So if I move ahead, how to change the shape of that pot of desires? What I do is I use what I call cosmic ideation. When I'm doing an action, how is it done? It's a practice of yoga. Before doing an action, I will think in my mind that it's not I doing the action, but it's the cosmic. This cosmic ideation, how does it act? It will change the samskaras that are formed. So the samskaras will be consciousness. So I'm adding consciousness to this bundle of samskaras. So the bundle of samskaras is becoming different. When the bundle of samskara is becoming different, it changes the shape of the pot of desires. The shape of the pot now is different. If the shape of the pot is different, the water inside the pot is the actions, the original actions. So if the pot has a different shape, the shape of the action is different. So my future actions will become different because the shape of the pot is becoming different. And how it is becoming different? I'm adding consciousness to that shape. Therefore, my future actions are guided more by consciousness. Okay, let's say that I will add here my future actions will be different because they are influenced by consciousness. They will become, let's say, actions conducive for the welfare and everything, because the inspiration is not coming from the external. So the mind is not anymore being influenced by the external. Now the mind is being influenced by the internal, which is the consciousness. Consciousness is influencing my actions, and external organs are not influencing my mind so much. And therefore, the mind is changing. No? Okay, going back, this we already saw. So I'm feeling the pot of desire with consciousness by using cosmic ideation when doing an action. My original actions with cosmic ideation are changing the pot. I mean, the samskaras are changing. The new samskaras are consciousness. The bundle of samskaras changes the shape of the pot. So my bundle of samskara is filling up with consciousness that is making the pot take the form of consciousness. As the pot takes the form of consciousness, let's say the pot is taking the form of consciousness, in the future, all my actions are getting inspiration from consciousness. and I'm becoming a different person, filling up. Everything is consciousness, the shape of the pot, the containers. And now, to attain the final liberation or the salvation, I have to surrender the whole pot to the cosmic consciousness, and that's how one attains the goal of yoga, means merging the unit consciousness with the cosmic consciousness. Okay, and that is the summary. So closing here, getting back to presentation here. And next is questions. Do you have any questions at this point? You are welcome to type your questions in the chat window, or you can raise your hands and ask a question or make a comment.